Hey guys, welcome back to part two. Thank you for coming back and watching this second part. It's in this part that we're going to talk a little bit about the country of Edom, and we're going to talk about Esau, and we're going to try to tie this to the red dragon that comes and is cast to the earth. So, as I was starting this study, as I was doing this, I was looking at the harlot, and I was looking at how the harlot was compared to the woman in Revelation 12, which we know is Philadelphia, the angel of the church of Philadelphia. We know that there's a second church that comes along after her, okay? And we also know that the harlot of Babylon appears to fall pretty much in line with the angel of the church of Philadelphia. So the question in my mind that was kind of bothering me was, is there another harlot system that takes the place of the Babylonian system? And I believe there is. And I believe that this church, or correction, not church, but this harlot is daughter Edom. Mentioned only twice in the Bible, daughter Edom is. And I couldn't shake that feeling, thinking that this daughter was indeed the system that will come about simultaneously with the second church, which would be Smyrna. And that was the question that was kind of in my mind, stirring about. And for some reason, I bought this book called Birthrights by Timothy Alberino, and I got a lot of insight simultaneously with my thoughts on what I was thinking with Edom and daughter Edom. And so I'm convinced that the Lord has got me on the right path here and is talking to me both through his word and this book. He had me stop reading it almost halfway through and said, that's all you need to know. So it's just a very kind of it was not strange, but it was different. It was kind of a really interesting how the Lord tied all these things together for me. And as I was looking, so what I want to do is present the part two, probably the final video on this topic. So who is the second harlot? I believe this to be daughter Edom. Being a daughter of Babylon, she's going to have some of the mother's qualities, but also have her own ways. So in the past, it's no surprise that we've discussed two women in Revelation 12. And again, I'll share with you that the Lord gave me a vision of a church handing a baton to the other church, two female runners, one passing a baton to the other. And I believe this church is the church of Smyrna. Now I have RNA highlighted here just simply because I don't know if that's a way that the Lord is communicating. Maybe that some of these are people that did not repent of taking the vaccine. I believe those people can be saved, absolutely. However, I believe it's going to be a fiery trial for them to go through with this in their system. It's just how I see it, and I've talked about that in past videos. Again, I believe these are unrepentant people at the time, but now realize what has been happening and what's going on. It's a sorry thing. It's a sorry thing for me to say, but I think that could be the reality of it. Again, that's just my interpretation of it. Something to think about, though. Both women, both churches, both candlesticks will bring forth the kingdom of God. Okay, that's those two. Those are the only two that find favor. If you find yourself in another church, whether it's Laodicea, whether it's the Church of Pergamum, Thyatira, all of those churches are described in Revelation 1 and 2, and 1 through 3, not Revelation 1, but 2 and 3, they have to repent and come to one of those two churches to be birthed through the kingdom of God. It seems to be that simple and that direct. Now, the Lord told me a long time ago that there's three types of people on earth. There's the bride of Christ, there's those that are on the fence, that are lukewarm, and there's those that are lost, that don't even know Christ. And if you think about it, that pretty much sums up what we have here. The lukewarm will have to decide, and then the lost those that don't understand or don't really want to know Jesus, or whether they're, like the Pauls. And he said there's three people that represent them. Jesus, my son, represents the bride of Christ, and they will go through the things that he went through. And then you also have the lost, which is like representative of Paul, who was lost, but then once he was found, he was completely on fire for God and did many wonderful things. And you also have the Jonahs, which are undecided or not willing to really pick a side and really full force go to Christ or completely devote their life to him. Okay. And that's the simplest way he explained it to me back when I was just becoming a Christian, because I asked him, I was like, was I even saved, before you spoke to me? And he's like, literally, he told me he had a Jonah moment, which would have been 45 years of a Jonah moment. So in other words, he was saying, you were lukewarm the whole time. You were, quote unquote, following me, but now you were born again and you are part of my bride. But each day is a day of salvation. Each day you have to take and renew who you are in him. Let him know you're for duty. Let him know that you were there. Let him know that you are following him by faith, and continue to be obedient to his word and continue to strive to meet that prize at the end of the race. So every day is the day of salvation. So anyway, that's how he explained it to me. Okay. It's his system, not mine. I'm communicating what is written and what I've been told. And it seems harsh. It does, but that's the reality of it. Okay. We have to focus on the eternal. We have to focus on the promises, and we have to focus on him directly to get through all of this. And it can be hard at times, absolutely. But he's always there. He's always faithful. And he'll get you through whatever it is you're going through. Lean into him exclusively. All right. Okay. So one of those two churches will give you the passage to the kingdom of God. Again, read Revelation 12 close. The words John uses, you can see two women, two paths in that chapter. But this study is about what the enemy is doing, and we know that he mimics the Lord. So we will see two harlot systems accompany both churches. I'm convinced of this after studying and reading this over the past few days. Without going into detail, I've talked recently about him, and you're going to see a lot of quotes from his book in this study, just simply because it was like the Lord was like, here's some help, here's someone who's done some research on this and kind of help you get you through what you're doing. So again, his book is called Birthright, and it makes sense because the fallen kingdom of Edom is basically dwelled out of this word called birthright, which is the story of Jacob and Esau. He describes the kingdom of Edom as the unseen fallen angels when they appear in the future. Okay, so we all know Satan and his angels and the dragon are going to be cast to the earth, but we don't know a good identity, and we don't know we know they're fallen princes, we know they're this, that, and the other, but this birthright of Jacob and Esau really comes to light, and you really get to see just what's going on here once you take a look at it. And so, of course, the title of his book, Birthright, is what ties into the scripturally disputed birthright of Jacob and Esau. So in the same way, and this is his book, I'm quoting his book here, in the same way that the nation of Israel is representative of the kingdom of heaven on earth, so too is Edom representative of the ancient spiritual enemy that we see disclosed in Ephesians 6. Or some would say the extraterrestrial adversary. The contention between Israel and Edom is an allegory of the war that is raged and has raged still between kingdoms and the insurgency from pre-Adam to present to now future. Okay, and you'll see that highlighted here later on. But the Lord came to Rebecca, and there's a lot of reading that you guys probably need to do. I'm throwing scripture out here, but it'd be wise to go back to those chapters and read the chapters as well. Okay. So 2 nations are in your womb. 2 manner of people shall be separated from you. And one people shall be stronger, and the other people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elders shall serve the younger. So God prophesied over Rebekah, saying that you got something going on that you were barren before, but your husband prayed, and now you're going to have a child, but they're going to be twin children, and they are in your womb. And these are two nations, two kingdoms, two mountains are in your womb. Okay. So how do we go from a story in Genesis about two boys being birthed to tying one of them to the red dragon and its kingdom? We will get to the celestial kingdom here in a bit, but what happened in Rebecca's womb? Just what's going on here in her stomach? Just who or what was Esau and the following kingdom of Edom that he produced? I would start with what has been done will be done again, and there's no new thing under the sun. The Lord makes and does amazing things to point us to truth, and I believe that even though there are only 2 verses containing daughter Edom in the Bible, all right, we can definitely look to her and her family as suspect of the fallen family and their return. You may want to do some homework on Esau and Edom before we go further, as there's a lot to take in and a lot that you may be quote-unquote taking my word for if you're not read up on the subject. A while ago, I did a video called Carnival, okay? And that's where I found this. The Lord showed me this. There's no way I would have found this. And I was completely blown away how the Lord showed me this. Satan has to disclose what he's doing. Some way, shape, or form, we know there was a divine counsel, and he is required to do this. I don't understand the verbiage or what was said in the courtroom, how this has to happen, but evidently it does, because he does it. And it points back to this character named Scott Evil in the, Scott Evil, in the movie Austin Powers, okay? If you haven't seen the movie, just go watch some clips from it. They're actually in the drive for you to look at. But for those that have seen it, and I think probably most people have, you have this kid who's been birthed by Dr. Evil's, one of his people on his council, okay? And he's on this Jerry Springer show, okay? Notice what he's wearing. A red coat that's furry. Okay. The Lord said immediately to me, this is Esau. This is a type of Esau here. And it follows scripture perfectly. And when her days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red and hairy. Hair came out first red all over like a hairy garment, and they called him Esau. So this is Esau. Okay. Then, of course, Jerry's talking to him, and he says, my dad is trying to take over the world. Okay, this is Satan's son, essentially. We'll get into that here in a minute. But this is what was in the womb of Rebecca. This is some sort of abomination that was in the womb of Rebecca. And we're going to get into that. So this is the Rebecca figure, okay? Now, according to the movie, she had an affair, or not affair, but a love child with Dr. Evil, and Scott was born, okay? The lines in this movie, she says, Scott, you are my love child from Dr. Evil. And Scott retorts, I thought I was a test tube baby. To which she's replying, lies, all lies. Test tube babies. Where did we get that wisdom from? Where did we get that knowledge from on how to do that? That was from the fallen, okay? But before we go there, Frau, when introduced by Dr. Evil at his little meeting, she states that she is the founder of the militant wing of the Salvation Army, which sounds kind of funny. The Salvation Army is those people that ring the bells, during Christmas time and take donations. But she's the founder of the militant wing of, this is what's catchy, Salvation Army. God has an army, okay? And she is the mother of that army of Israel. And they blessed Rebekah and said, thou art our sister, be the mother of the thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gates of hell of those which hate him. So she is the birthing mother through the Lord and Isaac of God's army. Sounds crazy, but it is true. All right. So in vitro fertilization, I put a little clip here. It's made on glass. They put it into the uterus through a catheter. It's transferred, hopefully for a successful pregnancy. And I got to thinking, well, when we survey a lot of alien abductions, and people that have claimed to be taken aboard craft, or I was taken by aliens and they took my eggs, or they took my sperm, or they did this and that to my my ovaries or my eggs and what have you, then this starts to make sense, doesn't it? That something happened in her womb that's just not quite right. Just not quite accurate, like a normal thing. Why would this kid, and even Timothy Alberino says in his book, when he heard this in Sunday school, he's like, Harry, red, what the heck is going on here? And that's my question. What happened here? Well, let's look at what Esau means. So when you look at the word Esau, it means to do or make. Meaning to create something that wasn't there before, to fashion something that was there in rudimentary form. Some kind of deed, to do mighty, to do a mighty or efficient work, exercise power or sovereignty. Frequently used in the creation account. Something happened in the womb of Rebekah, and we don't know what, to produce Esau. Okay? This is the beginning of the country of Edom. Right here. Did the enemy fashion a creation in her womb? And we talked about alien abductions here, right? Why are there so many testimonials of aliens taking sperm and eggs from females and males? Are they doing a mighty work? Are they exercising power? Are they fashioning something in the womb, like the name suggests? 2 kingdoms in your womb, 2 kingdoms at war. Okay, I had to step away, so I think I left off right here. So there's 2 kingdoms in the womb, 2 kingdoms at war. Esau's described as a hairy man, and what does the name hairy suggest? This is key, folks. This is groundbreaking right here. My brother is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth man. This is where his mother wants him to go and trick the father into getting the blessing of being the firstborn. Hairy means devil, means hairy, goat, kid, or satar. This word right here is demonic. It's a demonic entity. It's a demonic being. Demon-possessed, goat-like, like the swine of Gadara. Okay. This is exactly what it means. There's no way around that. The name Esau also has the base name of red dragon, which we know is that old serpent, the devil. So we know that this is Esau, and Adam also means red. So what Satan did here was a play off of what God created as a red man, or a man red or ruddy, which Adam is tied to his own creation, or his own manipulation, if you will, in the womb of Rebekah. And this is yet another tack to thwart the plan of God. Now, it also means it goes back to the red horse, war, destruction of humanity, to take peace from the earth. Jacob means Yahweh contends. Yahweh will contend with the red dragon. When you look at Jacob and Esau and really discover what's going on in the womb of Rebekah, you see that red is obviously a mockery of Adam, a diabolical spin of God's ambassador in the Garden of Eden. Satan now has his ambassador on earth. So one of the most famous interactions between Esau and Jacob is the one of the Bowl of Pottage. Now, guys, this pottage has, I won't say haunted, but has been on my mind since I was a kid. And I was like, what is the deal with this pottage? There's something different about this pottage I don't understand, but I know there's something more here. And I looked at pottage, I looked at all the things, the lentils, and I was like, what? It just doesn't make sense. There's too much of an emphasis for the Bible just to, hey, here's some soup, to really, for you to sell your birthright over. It just didn't make sense to me. There's just something more here, and I couldn't put my finger on it. So the story goes, Esau, who comes home from the day he's in the field, and he's extremely hungry, and he comes in, he's famished. He's meeting Jacob at home, and he declares to him that he's so hungry that he's going to sell his birthright for some of this red pottage, okay, that Jacob has prepared. What I'm finding interesting that the pottage is called lentils. However, when lentils are cooked, they're yellow, not red, okay? So the Bible makes a special connection with this pottage, and truthfully, I'm unsure why until I started diving into this a little deeper. He even has his name changed from Esau to Edom just by after eating this pottage. Okay? If you look at the text, and I can pull it up here real quick. Okay, so here we are. Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field, was faint. Feed me, I pray we, some of that red pottage. I'm faint, therefore his name was called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die. What use is this birthright to me? And Jacob said, swear me this day. So essentially what you have here is Satan was the firstborn. He had the rights to everything. There's God the Father, Jesus. I mean, Satan had it all. But he despised his birthright. He wanted more. Okay, that's the underlying theme here. However, what is this pottage? Okay, it says it's the lentils, which I've looked up. I couldn't find anything except they were yellow after being cooked. So that, in a sense, means they were raw. Okay, that's interesting, but that's not really enough for me to really dig in further. And I came across this website. The article's in the Google Drive, but essentially I clipped some stuff here. And Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field and was faint. Let me swallow, I pray thee, some red pottage. I am faint, therefore his name was called Edom. The Hebrew version, too, Esau is saying red twice. So he says red twice, implying that the lentil pottage was very red, or at least the color was very important in the scripture. See the occurrences of other repetition, so he references things here that aren't red. But red lentils lose their color when cooked, and tomatoes, bell peppers weren't around, being from the Americas. Is there some lore or content about this stew that Jacob cooked? This guy goes on to say, I heard once, I don't remember from who, questioning the word, blah, blah, blah. Since when did Esau, they spell it differently, say please? The answer was, I was told that Esau was not saying please. Esau was saying, give it to me raw. So that's a possibility. Thus, the red lentil soup was still raw and retained its color. This guy goes on to say that these Jewish books, I guess the Rambam and this chapter writes, the food was either red from the lentils or it was red from some other ingredient, but Esau did not know what it was. He just called it red. So he does entertain the idea of a different ingredient that made it red, but does not identify it. On a different note, here is chiddish. Something black, really just something red, who loses color. Then it talks about menstrual blood. And he goes on to say that drasha of completely red, something to do with the cow being considered red. I looked at this and I was like, okay, his name became Edom after he sees this soup, after he's taking this soup. Esau is known as Edom as after this interaction, so I had a hunch that my suspicions would be confirmed by or dissolved by looking up this etymology of Edom. It means blood. The name goes back to Adam, but zeroes in on the blood aspect of Adam. Esau's soup, I believe, had blood in it. And being satyr, or part demon devil, he had developed bloodlust. He was a hunter. He probably was a brown blood all the time, butchering animals. I think this appealed to this nature in him. And I believe that Jacob saw that bloodlust and capitalized on it when he came home hungry. This bloodlust is carried out in the book of Revelation by the sword, by the martyrs, which are hunted by the beast, in the house of the dragon. Interesting TV series that also has 7 kings or queens, I guess. I haven't looked into this, but this is something you might want to look into. That just came out, by the way. I came across an interesting piece of information as I was doing my research. Herod comes from the nation of Edom. Here's the reference here. We all remember Herod, right? When he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, exceedingly wroth, he sent forth, and he slew all the children in Bethlehem, all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time he had diligently acquired of the wise men. Bloodlust. Bloodlust. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughters of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, and she, being with instructed of her mother, said, Give me here John the Baptist's head in a charger. And I saw the thrones and those that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, nor had received his mark upon their foreheads or their hands, and they lived and reigned with Jesus 1,000 years. It's a bloodlust, folks. I'm convinced that pottage had blood in it. And I believe that Jacob appealed to that blood nature in his brother, put it in that soup, and he devoured it. Now, I want to read something to you that's in his book, because a lot of people blame Jacob about tricking Esau. But I think the way that Timothy puts this is perfect. And he states, The writer of Genesis portrays Jacob as an usurper, and indeed he was. But had he not supplanted his brother Esau in the hierarchy of his family, then Israel would never have produced the Messiah, and mankind would not have a kinsman redeemer. In consideration of this fact, we are compelled to view the story of a higher advantage. In truth, Esau was the usurper who was ill-begotten birth, preempted the promised seed, and imperiled the fulfillment of the dragon slayer prophecy. That's Genesis 3:18, I believe, where the Lord tells that he will send a Savior. Jacob grabbed Esau's heel and took back what was rightly belonged to him, to all of us, the birthright of Adam. As we will see, Jacob, like his father Isaac, is an archetype of Christ. The symbolic sacrifice of Isaac was foretold of Christ's first coming and sacrificial death, and Jacob reclaiming the birthright from Esau, a harbinger of his return at Armageddon and triumph over Apollo, the hybrid son of the dragon. The story of Jacob and Esau is a roadmap for understanding the unfolding events at the end of the age. As the dragon cannot seize the birthright of mankind by force, he must persuade us to sell it for a bowl of stew. He must also present a claimant of the throne of Adam who was human enough to inherit the seal of authority. This is why the dragon intends to produce a male child with a human woman, just as the Watchers did with the pre-flood world. So this is Edom. All about beginnings denotes a silenced person, a silence of death, a silence of waiting, a still image, likeness, refuse, to produce or begin to produce. What was our first harlot? A producer, right? It's the same thing. Daughter Edom will be the producer. The common theme here is silence. Did you notice it? Silence of death, silencing a person, silence of waiting. This silence will be due to the total control of the beast that he will have the planet in. Nobody will dare break the silence. The voice of the harpers and musicians, the pipers and the trumpeters shall be heard no more. The sound of the millstone shall be heard no more. The light of the candle shall shine no more. The voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more. Silence. For by thy sorceries all were deceived. Now, I tied the sorceries in the vaccine videos. So, it all ties back to this. It's all coming full circle. The lie will be at the present age that they will occupy and be the golden age. In short, the golden age is a period of time that many non-Christians are looking forward to. In this period, they believe that benevolent beings from far more advancement than humankind will usher them in to a period of harmony. A leader of the world will ascend and they be their spokesman to these benevolent beings and communicate our needs and desires. Timothy Alberino states, the prime objective of the great plan is to usher in the golden age and enthrone 10 kings of the golden race, the humanity hybrid progeny of the seven dragon princes, with Apollo as lord over all. These kings, subordinate to their father, will lead the nations into kinetic war with the kingdom of God and culminate with Armageddon. There are three essential components of this golden age. One, the establishment of a new religion that will impel men to become like God. The disclosure of a hostile alien race and the presence on Earth with the arrival of the golden race. This is your typical good aliens defeating the bad aliens for us and then cleaning up and helping us reestablish our world. This development will also include technologies to enhance human beings and the merging of technology and humanity, or as we know, iron and clay in Daniel. The only way we can effectively sell our birthright is to willfully relinquish the genetic markers that make us human. This is the goal of the post-humanism, to discard the body of Adam in order to obtain the attributes of God's, to dispense with the mortal and moral inhibitions of the human condition and evolve into something quite different and unintended. Just as we now, even in this late age, can go out and pretty much buy whatever we want or need, the daughter of Edom will be able to provide extensive technology to clean our air, purify water, grow our foods, heal the sick, rebuild structures. Does this sound like some of the things that the Church of Philadelphia will be doing? It's going to mimic that, right? They're going to mimic the lying signs and wonders, all right, that God's people did or doing. The best way to really put this in simplest terms, when Satan is cut off from heaven, he can no longer partake of its beauty and glory. He can only go to the throne and ask the Father for permission to test us, as we see in Job. But he cannot partake of heaven's glory or beauty or world. When the dragon is cast down to earth, he will set up what appears to be heaven on earth, the golden age, and those not wanting or willing to participate will be cut off from the earth. And that will be through the decapitation of the saints. No longer to be part of this world. Always remember, this generation shall not pass till these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. He's going to make a new heaven and a new earth. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The first of heaven and the first earth had passed away. There was no more sea. And I saw John, the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. This place will not be eternal. Do not invest in this earth or this lying kingdom. Finally, we'll take a look at Edom to show how the tribe does indeed come from the heavens and how our long-lost space family will be dealt with by the Lord. The Lord did not create the world in darkness and in disorder, as the word suggests in Genesis. Tohu, bohu, and Hosek, obscurity, destruction, death. There is and was a mystery inlaid here in the very beginning of God's word. With what mystery? I believe that there are woven threads of scripture that point to the galactic war that we have no recollection of. If you look at these threads, there is a tapestry that emerges depicting an ancient alien insurrection that led to the total desolation of our planets and our solar system long before Adam. You have these surface layers of Scripture, but hand in hand with the Holy Spirit, you can unzip the folders and chapters and Scriptures and see a whole new layer. This is such the case with Edom. The unholy union of Satan and his 6 closest apostate princes. Behold, he beholdeth all the high things. He's talking about Leviathan in Job. He's a king over the children of pride. The scriptural references of Edom connect 3 periods of time: the celestial conflict in the pre-Adamic past, the terrestrial conflict with the nation of Israel, and the battle of Armageddon at the end of the age. Obadiah, the whole chapter is about Edom. Okay, I picked a few verses here to look at. The pride of thy heart has deceived you, that dwells in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, who says in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you exalt yourself as an eagle, and though thou set your nest among the stars, I will bring you down, says the Lord. I believe this rock, obviously it's Petra, with the real kingdom of Edom on earth, but I believe this rock is the firmament in the heavens. For your violence against your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In that day thou stood on the other side, and in that day strangers carried away captive his forces, his foreigners entered into the gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even you were one of them. But upon Mount Zion there shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. There shall be not be any remaining in the house of Esau. The Lord has spoken. So if you read Lamentations 4, I have read the whole chapter, but this kind of puts it in perspective. The punishment of your iniquity is accomplished, O daughter Zion. So who is daughter Zion? Daughter Zion, I believe, we know Zion is Jerusalem. We know Jerusalem, Philadelphia, and the woman in Revelation 12 give birth. I believe this is the second church, daughter Zion, coming out of her. The punishment for your iniquity is accomplished, O daughter Zion. He will no more carry thee away in captivity. He will visit thy iniquity, O daughter Edom. He will discover your sins. So I believe this daughter Edom and daughter Zion go hand in hand. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.